Hey guys, we are at the Marshall studio at the Marshall factory in Milton Keynes. I am here with Steve Smith, product specialist, and one of the main components in making these, in designing these amazing products. So we have the privilege of having him here with us today to check them out. We haven't received any of these yet at Wild Guitars. Some of them are on the way, some aren't yet. And yeah, let's get into it. All right, so we're going to start off by discussing and hearing the new Modified series. Steve, you want to tell us a bit about the background on those amps?
Yeah, I mean, modded Marshalls have been around for a long, long time, but it's never been Marshall doing the mods for the public. Right. But funnily enough, we have been doing mods for artists for a long, long time. You know, you can think all the way back to someone like Randy Rhoads, who played for Ozzy Osbourne, came to Marshall. He visited this location in like 1980. And he wanted a 1959, very much like this one, but he wanted it in white, which is what he's famous for. But he wanted extra gain, so we did a cascading gain mod for him. We've done stuff for Slash, you know, so many artists throughout the years. So Marshall have been modding our own amps, right? But we just haven't been known for it, if that makes kind of sense.
Were these like industry secrets, or was it all like open to the public?
Not necessarily a secret. Yeah, I think as soon as they got into the artist's hands, people knew they weren't stock. Yeah. But then they'd go elsewhere to get that sound, or you know, especially if they weren't in the UK. Right. You know, a lot of the guys in the States would go to their local amp tech or modder to get a similar thing done. We thought it'd be a great idea just to offer people two of the most modded Marshalls ever, which is like an 800 and a 1959, with the common modifications people were getting done off the shelf. Yeah. Because obviously a lot of people were getting mods done back in the day, but sometimes it was always a bit of a risk. You never knew what you were going to get. Yeah. And actually throughout the decades at Marshall, the service team here, they've had a lot of amps back that have been modded by other people, and people are like, can you put that back to stock because it just doesn't sound good anymore? Yeah. So it's always been a bit of a risk, unless you go to, you know, someone who's known for doing mods. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, these are, like I say, it's a stock JCM 800 and a stock 59 that have actually been modified by us in-house. Yeah. So that's a general idea.
And are the mods basically just the switches, or are there changes to the circuit, like added or removed components?
Yeah, there's no add or remove components apart from some small bits and pieces that are connected to the switches. And then I guess the different one for this 59 amp is the extra control over here, which we've actually put into one of the sockets, the input socket, because that's what a lot of the guys were doing in like the 70s and the 1980s to 59s. They were adding a master volume, and instead of drilling out holes in the faceplate, they just used to shove one into one of the sockets. So it looks a little bit kind of crude, but we wanted to have that kind of authentic look of an amp that's been modified, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, Marshall is all about authenticity, and there's the history of the brand, including these mods. You know, it's a part of Marshall history at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah, and the mods in general are kind of, like I say, they're fairly common things that people were getting done, and mostly it was for higher gain, more gain. Because if you think like more in the 1980s, people were kind of getting more aggressive with their style of playing guitar. Like the hard rock scene was getting more kind of flash with the way people used to play guitar. So they wanted more saturations. They'd get modifications done. But even though there's been a lot of amps that offer high gain, you know, there's so many amps out in the market now that do the high gain thing. There's something about the old school Marshall circuit that's been tweaked. Yeah, it's just got its unique kind of thing going on, and it's a very signature sound. It's going to sound familiar to a lot of people because it's been on 1,000 records. Yeah, yeah. So with this one, the 1959, the most common thing was the master volume. Right. So that's what the extra control is there. I mean, we're sat here today talking, and we're also going to be sat next to this amp playing. Now, with these old 1959 100-watt heads, they're non-master volume stock. When you sort of plug them in and you get them to a sensible volume, everyone's kind of like, what's up with that sound? It doesn't sound like the records. It's because you have to turn the things all the way up.
Right.
And at that point, it becomes ridiculously loud. It's a glorious sound. It's amazing, but it's too loud for most people in most situations. So the master volume was put there so you could crank the actual volume control of the amplifier to get the sound into the sweet spot where you want it to for the amount of gain, but then control it with the master. And it's a pre-tone stack master volume as well, because there's different places where you can put a volume control on these amps. We experimented with all of them, and we just found that this one kind of adjusted the sound of the amp in a good way for lower volume playing. Pre-tone stack kind of makes the EQ a little bit more active. And also it fattens up the tone at low volume. Sometimes when you get an amp and you turn it really quiet, it can lose all of its character. Yeah. So we really wanted to make sure it kept the authentic kind of plexi tone, but without losing your hearing in the process. Yeah. So there's that. And then there's these additional switches here which do kind of various things. The first one, which is labelled bright, allows you to remove the bright cap, which is in these amps. So when you're playing at lower volumes, I'm going to turn the amp right down. The amp's very kind of clean. If I turn it down even more, we can hear now. It's a great sound, but it's not the authentic kind of rock sound that people expect. But when the amp's kind of loud and quiet, sometimes it can get a little bit bright for a lot of people. So what a lot of people used to do is cut that bright cap out. Yeah. So you can see it's making a huge difference. So I had the bright cap in off originally to make it sound a little bit more pleasant at lower volumes. But stock.
Got a lot more bite to it.
Again, it's subjective. I actually like the bright cap. I think it's got a real nice snap to it and a kind of a percussive nature to the note. But again, a lot of people used to go in and cut them out. But then once you've cut it out, you haven't got a bright cap anymore. You ain't got that choice. So just to put it on a switch made perfect sense. But funnily enough, the more you turn up the channel volume on these amps, the bright cap actually blends out of the signal anyway. So when you turn it up fully, you're not hearing the bright cap. So it only really affects the guys who like to play cleaner or kind of on the edge of breakup. That bright cap switch is really useful for those kind of tones. So again, like I said about turning it up, the more I turn the amp up, it starts to distort. I'm going to just roll back the master volume so we can hear what we're doing. So I've actually turned up the channel volume of the amp up fully now. So
this would be unbearable under
we wouldn't be able to sit next
regular
to the thing.
Circumstances.
Yeah. There's videos I've done in the past where, because I don't usually like using earplugs in videos, but I'm kind of wincing because I just can't even be anywhere near the amp while it's kicking out. It's a ridiculous volume. So
yes, we've got the Marshall crunch at almost bedroom level.
That's it. We sat here, we're talking. It's the same level as our conversation, which is great. And it's that. Which is kind of what everybody expects a plexi to sound like. Yeah. That's the tone right there. So what we're hearing now is kind of a stock Marshall plexi sound, but just with the added feature of the volume. Yeah. Attenuating for us right there. Then we've got these two switches here, and they work in conjunction with each other. So there's a clip on and off switch. It's off at the moment. So it's, like I say, it's stock. Yeah. When I turn that on, it adds additional gain. Okay. And once it's on, I can use this switch to choose which style of gain that the amp's doing. There's two modes. You've basically got like a diode in there on option 1, which is, a diode is like a similar thing you find in a lot of overdrive pedals. Right. It adds a little bit more gain. but it kind of affects the low end and the high end a little bit as well. It narrows it, the general frequency, a little bit more focus to the general sound, which again, a lot of people like, because a lot of those OD pedals in the past were used for tightening the amp also when they wanted more gain. So that's kind of the idea. So again, I'll turn it off. And then with it on,
so that's basically like a 1959 on steroids,
yeah,
sort of.
Yeah. And then there's also option 2, which is not a diode based. It's kind of it's transistor. So it's a different style. It's more, technically it's more compressed because you're squashing the signal even more and getting more gain. But in a weird way, it still keeps the range of the amp full. So you're not losing any lows or highs. Yeah. So, but what you do get with transistor by nature is a slight drop in volume because you're compressing the signal so much. So again, I'm just going to turn it back up on the volume control. That's a different thing again. That's kind of the most amount of gain you're going to get out of the amp. But again, it's a balancing act with these, because if you just start shoving tons of gain in, it doesn't sound like the amp anymore.
Yeah.
We still needed it to have that tone. Right. If that makes sense. But again, the fact that we sat here next to this amp, having a conversation, getting that amount of distortion. It's like,
yeah, that was previously unheard of among these amps, unless you had them modified.
Yeah, and this particular one, the 1959, is like hand wired as well. Like I say, it's a stock 59 hand wired that's been modified in house by our engineers. So that's that one in a nutshell. All
right, and now we're moving on to the iconic JCM 800.
Yeah,
in its modified form.
Yes. So, like I say, you can put this to bone stock if you wish, which is already a great sound. But like I say, there are 3 additional switches. There's a tight, the OD switch, and then the mid shift. So I'm not going to go in order, actually. I'm going to start with the OD in the middle. And in the middle position, because it's a 3-way.
Oh, 3-way, okay.
Yeah. It's like I say, it's the regular 800 sound. And overdrive 1 gives you additional gain. So, and then the second one is even more gain than that. That's nice and simple to explain. But the second option kind of gives you additional gain in clipping, so it feels a little bit more kind of compressed and easy to play as well on setting 2, which some people may like.
Yeah, it can be an unforgiving amp.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, these amps are very honest. So if you're having a bad day on guitar, then it's going to be a bad day very loud. So yeah, but I like the OD too, because like I say, it's a little bit more squishy, a little bit more forgiving under the fingers, which is good today for me.
Yeah.
So
sounds great.
All the juice you need in there. The tight switch we added because when you add gain, sometimes the low end can become a little bit
like muddy.
Bit muddy. Yeah, a little bit loose as well. So especially if you're the kind of player who likes to detune or use 7 or 8 string, anything like that as well, before adding the tight switch, which is going to basically just shave off low end, is going to make it tighter in general. So I'll just kind of show you with and without. I mean, we're definitely going to be able to hear this and feel this, but hopefully at home.
Yeah.
If people are listening through good speakers, they'll get it, but maybe not so much on your phone.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, again, this is with without the tight switch. with.
Yeah, perfect for those riffs.
Yeah. So it just brings things in. And then there's a mid shift, because a big difference between, let's say, you know, the 800s, the 59s, is like the mids, even though they're very similar circuits, a lot of people think the 800 is kind of a bit more scooped than the old school 59s. So we thought it'd be nice to give people a more pronounced kind of choice on the mid-range if they wish. So, like I say, on the 0 position, it's just off. And then with. It's just more pointy.
Yeah, more focused.
Yeah, more focused. And a combination between that mid shift and the tight just give you some more options really on how you want to kind of set the amp up.
Yeah, you can never have too many tone sculpting tools at your disposal.
But it still stays within the realm of a JCM 800.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. It doesn't turn it into anything else.
It's probably perfect for me.
Yeah.
The big Zach Wild fan.
Oh, there you go. Perfect. Yeah. And that's the other thing actually, you know, even with the additional gain on here, we wanted to make sure that even if you wanted ridiculous amounts of gain and still wanted to use a pedal up front, it maintained its clarity. And again, that tight switch was really good for that also. So yeah, I mean, like I say, all these modified amps are built in the UK, modified by our techs in-house. So yeah, it's just really, it's a more usable kind of version of the original amps. Yeah. And we still make those originals because some people are like, just want the pure,
of course,
untouched version. But yeah, this is just, I think, especially with the 59, the master volume and things like that, it makes it way more usable for a lot of people who are doing smaller gigs or even playing at home. Because I have this conversation a lot, you know, 100 watts, a lot of people just say no because it's too loud. The wattage in an amp is not just about volume, though, it's a sound thing.
Sound and a feel.
They feel completely different. And even if you're using like a direct box of some sort with cab sims or whatever, you can still hear a 100 watt amp versus a 50 watt amp versus a 20 watt amp, because the sound's just big and wide on the 100 watts. And you still get that full bass and full treble kind of response. And things start to become a bit more mid-focused when you lessen the wattage. So don't discount an amp just because it's 100 watts. So I think you should try one of these amps even if you've never considered it before.
Absolutely. So. Yeah, and we are currently in the pre-order phase. Not too late to get your hands on these before we receive our first shipment. These are not limited edition. We're going to be receiving them until further notice. They're on our website, and you're welcome to ask us questions or just check out the website and let us know what you think.